My name is Madison Carter. I'm 28 years old. And the night my boyfriend's sister called me a thief in front of both our families was the night I realized how fragile happiness can be. Picture this: a warm Sunday evening in Charlotte, the kind where golden light spills through tall windows and makes everything look softer than it really is. We were gathered in Nathan's parents' dining room in Myers Park. Polished mahogany table, antique china, the smell of honey-glazed ham and rosemary potatoes floating through the air. Nathan had just announced our wedding date. 6 months from now. There were raised glasses, sweet tea, champagne, laughter echoing against framed family photos lining the walls. My mom had driven in wearing her navy blue dress, the one she only pulls out for graduations and funerals. My younger sister, Claire, was sketching little centerpiece ideas on a napkin, already imagining how she'd decorate the reception hall. For a moment, I let myself believe I belonged there, that I wasn't the girl from East Charlotte who grew up counting coins for bus fare, that I was simply Madison, Nathan's future wife. Then, you stole my wallet. The words sliced through the room so sharply, I actually thought I'd misheard them, but I hadn't. Olivia Harper, Nathan's older sister, was standing near the sideboard, one manicured finger pointed directly at me like I was under arrest. Her voice wasn't confused. It wasn't concerned. It was certain. You stole my wallet, Madison. Silence collapsed over the table. Every fork froze midair. My stomach dropped so fast, I thought I might be sick. Olivia, what? I managed. She held up a familiar beige leather wallet. Designer. Expensive. The kind she'd casually flash at brunch when insisting she'd forgotten her debit card again. I found it, she said, her lips curving into something that almost resembled triumph. In your bag. Gasps rippled around the room. My mother's hand trembled slightly against her wine glass. Claire's eyes snapped to me. Not accusing, but alert, calculating. Nathan stood up so fast his chair scraped harshly across hardwood. That's ridiculous, he said. But Olivia wasn't finished. I saw her near the sideboard earlier, she continued, voice rising. And now my wallet's missing. What else am I supposed to think? My mind scrambled. I hadn't even brought a purse. Mine was locked in Nathan's car outside. I'd only brought my phone and keys. I remembered debating it before we walked in, not wanting to look paranoid carrying it around all evening. Olivia, I didn't take anything, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Don't lie to me, she shrieked it. Her diamond earrings flashed under the chandelier. I found it in your clutch. Did you really think you could walk into this family and steal from me? The words hit harder than they should have. Walk into this family, like I was an intruder, like I'd snuck in through a side door. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Nathan moved toward the sideboard. Where is this so-called bag? He demanded. Olivia reached down and picked up a small black clutch. That one. I stared at it. I had never seen it in my life. That's not mine, I said immediately. She unzipped it slowly, dramatically, like she was revealing a magic trick. And there it was, her wallet. Right inside. A collective intake of breath filled the room. My mother made a small, wounded sound. The worst part wasn't the accusation. It was the doubt flickering across a few unfamiliar faces. Nathan's cousin, his aunt, the subtle shift, the possibility. You see, Olivia said softly, I knew something was off about her. Off. Because I grew up poor? Because my mom worked double shifts grading papers late at night? Because I paid my own way through college? Nathan's voice cut through the tension. This is insane. But I felt it. The humiliation creeping up my neck, burning my cheeks. I could feel years of hard work, of proving myself, of building credibility at Piedmont Financial, collapsing under a single word. Thief. And as Olivia stood there, clutching her wallet like she'd just exposed a criminal mastermind, something inside me whispered a truth I hadn't wanted to face. This didn't start tonight. This started months ago. And the dinner table wasn't just a celebration. It was a stage, and I was the target. Before Olivia ever pointed her finger at me, before that wallet ever appeared in a bag that wasn't mine, this story began in a 2-bedroom apartment off Central Avenue, East Charlotte. Peeling paint, thin walls, the hum of traffic outside our windows like a constant reminder that the world kept moving whether we were ready or not. My mother raised Claire and me alone after our father disappeared when I was 7. No dramatic goodbye, no explanation. Just an empty closet and unpaid bills stacked on the kitchen counter. Mom was an elementary school teacher, which meant she shaped other people's children all day, then came home exhausted and shaped us with whatever energy she had left. Money was never abundant. We shopped at thrift stores, we clipped coupons. I learned early that maybe next time usually meant no, but we never stole. We never borrowed what we couldn't repay, and we never pretended to be something we weren't. Integrity is the only thing no one can take from you, Mom used to say while grading spelling tests at the tiny kitchen table. I believed her. I studied like survival depended on it. Scholarship to UNC Charlotte. Finance degree. Internship at Piedmont Financial Services that turned into a full-time job analyzing investment portfolios. Long nights, early mornings, building spreadsheets that felt like stepping stones toward stability. I didn't want luxury. I wanted security. That's where I met Nathan Harper. He was my supervisor, 30 years old, calm, steady. The kind of man who never raised his voice but somehow commanded a room anyway. He didn't flirt with me. He asked about my goals. He stayed late reviewing presentations with me. He remembered that my mom preferred sweet tea without lemon. He listened. When we started dating, quietly, professionally, it felt grounded, not reckless. He grew up middle class. His father owns a successful HVAC company. His mother is a pediatric nurse. Solid people, warm people. When he proposed under the oak tree at Freedom Park, Charlotte's skyline glittering behind us, I thought my life had gently, finally aligned. I thought I was stepping into a family that valued the same things I did. Then I met Olivia Harper, 34, polished, loud, always dressed in labels that didn't quite match her "I'm struggling right now" narrative. Her smile was bright. Her eyes were sharp. "Welcome to the family," she'd said the first time we met, hugging me a little too tightly. I remember the faint scent of expensive perfume and something else underneath it. Assessment. She got my number the next day. The texts started casually. "Let's grab lunch, future sis. Sister bonding time." I was nervous to make a good impression. Of course, I said yes. The first lunch was at a trendy cafe in South End. $14 salads, $12 lattes, exposed brick, and Edison bulbs. Halfway through the meal, Olivia patted her purse dramatically. "Oh my gosh, Madison, I left my wallet in my other bag. I'm mortified." She laughed. "Can you grab this one? I'll Venmo you tonight." She never did. The second time, it was parking fees. The third time, cab fare. The fourth, she was waiting on a client payment. Each time, I paid. Each time, I told myself it was temporary. We were building sisterhood. We were going to be family. But the amounts added up. Almost $200 a month. Money I was quietly setting aside for wedding deposits. Whenever I gently reminded her, she'd wave it off. "Come on, Madison. We're not strangers. Don't nickel and dime me." Nickel and dime. The phrase stung because I remembered watching my mother count literal nickels to buy groceries. Because to me, money wasn't abstract. It was rent. It was gas. It was security. Still, I kept trying until the rainy Thursday in March. Nathan and I had just left the office, debating DJ versus live band, when Olivia stepped out from behind a parked SUV like she'd been waiting. "Perfect timing," she chirped, slightly damp from the drizzle. "I'm heading to dinner with friends, but I'm short $40. Can you spot me?" $40. On top of everything else. Something in me tightened. I felt it, a boundary forming. "No," I said. It surprised even me how steady my voice sounded. Her smile faltered. "You haven't repaid any of the money I've already covered. I can't keep doing this." The sweetness evaporated instantly. "Wow," she said flatly. "I didn't realize you were keeping score." "It's not about score," I replied quietly. "It's about respect." Nathan stepped closer to me. "Olivia, you've been borrowing from her for months." She laughed sharply. "Borrowing? I'm trying to bond with my future sister-in-law, but apparently she's too careful. Careful, as if it were an insult. Families help each other, she snapped. Or is that not how it works where you come from? There it was. The subtle cut. The class dig. Nathan's jaw tightened. That's enough. But Olivia's eyes shifted, and for the first time, I saw something colder beneath her charm. Resentment. You think she's perfect, don't you? She said to him. Little Miss Analyst, Little Miss Bootstrap story. Her voice dropped lower. She's not what you think. I felt a chill then, a premonition, because the way she said it didn't sound like an opinion. It sounded like a promise. Nathan told her to leave. She did, but as she walked away, her heels clicking against wet pavement, she turned back with a faint, unsettling smile. We'll see how perfect she is, she said. I brushed it off at the time, told myself it was just wounded pride. But standing in that dining room weeks later, with her wallet lifted from a bag I'd never touched, I realized something with terrifying clarity. That confrontation in the rain hadn't ended the conflict. It had escalated it. And Olivia Harper didn't lose gracefully. She retaliated. Standing there in Nathan's parents' dining room, watching Olivia hold up that wallet like a trophy, I remembered every single lunch. Every single, oops, I forgot. Every single time I doubted myself instead of doubting her. Because the manipulation hadn't been loud at first. It had been subtle, calculated, and embarrassingly effective. After that rainy Thursday confrontation, I thought things would cool down. For about a week, they did. No texts, no invitations, no emergency cash requests. I allowed myself to believe maybe Nathan's firm tone had finally gotten through to her. Then the messages started again, but softer, more emotional. Hey, I've been thinking about what happened. I didn't mean to upset you. Can we start over? I don't want bad blood before the wedding. Guilt is a powerful motivator, especially when you've spent your whole life trying to prove you're worthy of the room you're in. So I agreed to meet her again, this time at a quieter coffee shop. She didn't ask for money that afternoon. Instead, she asked questions about my childhood, about my father leaving, about how hard it must have been growing up like that. Her tone sounded sympathetic, but her eyes were studying me, measuring. You must feel lucky, she said at one point, stirring her latte slowly, to have landed Nathan. Landed. Like he was a prize. I feel loved, I corrected gently. She smiled thinly. You know, he could have married anyone. The words were soft. The implication wasn't. That was when I first understood something I hadn't wanted to name. This wasn't about money. The money was a symptom. The real issue was control. Nathan had always been steady, responsible, the golden son. And Olivia? Olivia had once been the center of attention before the divorce. Before the job loss, she brushed off as corporate politics. Before the whispers I later learned were financial misconduct. But at the time, I didn't know any of that. All I knew was that she watched me the way someone watches a replacement. The lunches continued, though less frequently. She stopped outright asking for cash. Instead, she'd conveniently forget again. Or order the most expensive thing on the menu before sighing dramatically at the bill. Each time, I'd hesitate a little longer before sliding my card across the table. Each time, I'd feel more resentment and more shame for feeling it, because part of me feared confirming her narrative. The girl from East Charlotte who counted pennies. The one who didn't know how to be generous. Then came the afternoon she showed up at my office unannounced. I was in the lobby reviewing portfolio notes when I saw her reflection in the glass door. Perfect blowout. Designer heels. That same tight smile. I was in the area, she said brightly. She never was. We stepped outside. I just need a tiny favor, she said casually. I had to cover something unexpectedly, and I'm short on rent. Just until next week. How much? I asked, already knowing I didn't want the answer. $500. My stomach dropped. That's not tiny, she sighed as if I were the unreasonable one. You're about to marry into a family with real assets, Madison. $500 shouldn't scare you. It wasn't the amount. It was the assumption. No, I said quietly. Her eyes hardened instantly. You really are keeping score. I'm setting boundaries. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Do you have any idea what people are going to think if you start acting like this? Refusing small help requests? They'll say you're stingy, cold. There it was again. Reputation, image, control. I'm not responsible for managing your narrative, I replied. For a moment, I saw it clearly. The resentment, the anger, the fear, and something else. Desperation. You think you're better than me, she whispered. I don't, I said honestly, but I won't let you treat me like an ATM. Her jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. I didn't understand at the time what she meant. Now, standing in that dining room with 20 pairs of eyes on me, I did. Because Olivia didn't need my money. She needed leverage. And when I stopped giving her access financially, she shifted to something far more dangerous. Social destruction. Back in the present, the dining room air felt thick. Nathan had stepped between us now. That's not Madison's bag, he said firmly. Olivia's expression didn't waver. It was sitting with the others. It's clearly hers. It's not, I repeated, but doubt was a quiet poison. I could see it spreading subtly across unfamiliar faces, and Olivia knew it. That was the worst part. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't confused. She was performing. I just want honesty, she said softly now, shifting tactics. If you needed money, Madison, you could have asked. Needed money. The implication burned. My mother shifted in her seat. Claire's fingers tightened around her napkin, and I realized something horrifying. This wasn't impulsive. This was premeditated. She had waited for a room full of witnesses, for my mother to be present, for maximum humiliation. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, and just as the silence became unbearable, Claire's chair scraped gently against the floor. She stood. And in a voice steadier than I felt, she said, "That's not Madison's bag." The room stilled completely. Olivia blinked. "What?" "That clutch," Claire continued calmly, "is mine." The shift in energy was almost physical. Olivia's hand tightened around the wallet. Claire didn't rush, didn't raise her voice. "I haven't moved from this chair all evening," she said. "So if Madison supposedly put that wallet in my bag, I'd love to hear how." The first crack appeared in Olivia's composure, a flicker, a miscalculation, because she hadn't accounted for Claire. She hadn't expected resistance, and as the silence stretched, the carefully constructed illusion began to tremble. The silence after Claire's words wasn't loud, it was suffocating. Olivia stood frozen near the sideboard, still clutching her wallet like it might disappear if she loosened her grip. For the first time all night, she looked unsure. "What are you talking about?" she snapped. But there was a thinness to her voice now, a hairline fracture. Claire didn't flinch. She'd always been the quieter one growing up, observant, analytical, the kind of person who saw details others missed. "That's my clutch," Claire repeated evenly. "I brought it tonight because it matches my dress. Madison didn't bring a purse." Several heads turned toward me. Nathan nodded immediately. She left hers in the car. I could see the mental math happening around the table. Olivia's gaze darted toward the hallway, toward the bathroom I'd stepped into earlier. "Well, maybe she," Olivia began. "Maybe she what?" Claire interrupted gently. There was no accusation in her tone, just logic. "If Madison put your wallet in my bag, she would have had to walk over here, open it, slip it inside, and then return to her seat. I've been here the entire time talking to Mrs. Harper about her rose bushes." Claire gestured toward Nathan's mother, who nodded slowly. "She hasn't moved," Mrs. Harper said softly. The room shifted, subtly, but definitively. Olivia's confidence flickered. "She must have done it earlier," Olivia said quickly, "before dinner." "But you just said you had your wallet when you arrived," Nathan's father added quietly. His voice carried weight, calm, controlled, dangerous. "Yes, I did," Olivia stammered. "And if it was in your possession when you arrived," he continued carefully, "and Claire hasn't left her seat, then how did it end up in her bag?" The question hovered there, unavoidable. The kind of silence that forces truth into the open, whether you want it or not. Olivia's eyes moved rapidly. From me to Claire to Nathan to her parents. Calculating. Looking for an exit. There must be some confusion, she tried. Maybe Claire grabbed the wrong clutch earlier. Claire actually smiled faintly. Olivia, she said softly. Mine has my initials stitched inside. She stepped forward, reached for the clutch in Olivia's hand, and gently turned it inside out. C.W. Clear as day. My sister's initials. The room inhaled as one. Olivia's hand trembled slightly now. The performance was unraveling, and everyone could see it. Nathan stepped forward. Did you put it there? He asked her. His voice wasn't angry yet. It was worse. It was disappointed. I would never, she started. Olivia Marie Harper, her father said slowly, using her full name in a way that made the air go colder. Answer him. Her composure cracked then, just slightly. You don't understand, she said, voice rising defensively. I was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? Nathan demanded. From her, Olivia gestured at me wildly. She's not who she pretends to be. My throat tightened. The narrative she'd been building for months was surfacing. She's obsessed with money, Olivia continued. She counts every penny. She makes you feel guilty for helping your own sister. I asked you to repay what you borrowed, I said quietly. You embarrassed me, she shot back, in a parking lot. There it was. The motive. Not justice, not suspicion. Humiliation. Revenge. Nathan's face hardened. So you framed her? I didn't frame her, Olivia insisted, but her voice lacked conviction now. I wanted everyone to see. To see what? Claire asked calmly. That she doesn't belong here, Olivia exploded. Gasps rippled across the table. My mother's face drained of color. She's from East Charlotte, Olivia continued, spiraling. She grew up with nothing. She doesn't understand how families with real assets operate. She sees opportunity. The words hit harder than the accusation of theft, because this was what she truly believed, that I was opportunistic, less than. Nathan stepped in front of me. Stop. But you're blinded by her sob story, she said bitterly. She trapped you with it. The insult was sharp, but the room had shifted too far now. Nathan's father rose slowly from his chair. I'm going to ask you one more time, he said evenly. Did you put your wallet in Claire's bag? Olivia's breathing was shallow, her eyes glassy, and then something in her broke. Yes, she shouted suddenly. Yes, I did. The confession detonated through the room. Mrs. Harper sank into her chair. Claire went still. My mother closed her eyes briefly. Not in shock, but in relief. Nathan didn't move. He just stared at his sister like he didn't recognize her. I needed you to see it, Olivia continued hysterically. She's manipulating you. She made me look pathetic for asking for help. She thinks she's better than me. I asked you to stop taking advantage of me, I said softly. You humiliated me, she cried. No, Nathan said firmly. You humiliated yourself. The truth settled heavily across the table. This hadn't been about money. It hadn't even been about me. It had been about control slipping through her fingers, about losing influence over her younger brother, about insecurity curdling into sabotage. Nathan's voice was quiet now. You tried to destroy her reputation in front of both families. Olivia's lips trembled. You're choosing her over me. I'm choosing truth over lies, he replied. Her father spoke again, this time with finality. You need to leave. Dad, now. Olivia looked around the room desperately, as if someone might take her side. No one did. She grabbed her purse. Her movements were sharp, frantic. At the doorway, she paused. Her eyes locked onto mine. This isn't over, she said quietly. It wasn't a threat screamed in rage. It was colder than that. Calculated. Then she left. The door slammed. The house fell into stunned silence. Nathan turned to me immediately. His hands cupped my face. I'm so sorry, he whispered. And only then did the tears come. Not from humiliation anymore, but from the sheer emotional whiplash of almost losing everything and watching truth claw its way back. But even as the room began to breathe again, even as apologies started to murmur around us, one thought lingered in the back of my mind. Olivia hadn't panicked when she accused me. She had been prepared. which meant she'd been planning this longer than we realized. And people who plan like that don't disappear quietly. The silence after Olivia left felt fragile, like the entire house was holding its breath. Nathan's arms were still around me, steady and warm, but I could feel the tremor in his hands. Not fear, rage, betrayal. I should have seen this coming, he muttered. No, I whispered. You trusted your sister. But trust, I was learning, can be weaponized. Nathan's mother approached first. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from something deeper, disappointment. Madison, she said softly, taking my hand, I owe you an apology. We all do. You don't, I said quickly, though my voice wavered. You didn't accuse me. But we hesitated, she replied. That hurt. Because it was true. For a split second, some of them had wondered, and Olivia had known they would. Nathan's father straightened his jacket, composure returning like armor sliding back into place. This isn't the first time, he said quietly. The words hung there. What do you mean? Nathan asked. His father exchanged a look with his mother. We didn't want to burden you with this before the wedding, Mrs. Harper admitted, but Olivia's struggles haven't been isolated. Struggles. It sounded gentle, but what followed wasn't. Her divorce, we learned, hadn't been about growing apart, as she'd claimed. Her ex-husband had discovered withdrawals from their joint account, thousands missing over months. Shopping. Trips. Unexplained charges. When confronted, she'd denied it, then blamed him, then left. Her most recent job at a boutique marketing firm? Not a layoff. Termination. For mishandling client funds. I felt cold all over. She told us it was corporate downsizing, Nathan murmured. His father nodded grimly. We chose to believe her. Belief. It's easier than facing the alternative. The pattern became painfully clear. Borrowing. Manipulating. Escalating when confronted. And when she lost financial access to me, she shifted to social sabotage. Nathan sank into a chair. She planned this. Yes, his father said quietly. She did. Over the next few days, the truth continued to unravel. Nathan's parents went through old financial records, quietly. They discovered transfers they'd made to help her get back on her feet. Large ones. Loans that were never repaid. Promises that dissolved into silence. And when they confronted her with the evidence, bank statements, termination documents, divorce filings, she finally admitted it, not with remorse. With resentment. You've always favored him, she reportedly told her parents. You always believed he was the responsible one. That night at the dinner table hadn't just been about me. It had been about comparison, control, and the fear of being replaced. Within a week, Olivia transferred every dollar she owed me. Venmo notifications buzzing on my phone felt surreal. Lunch reimbursements. Parking. Coffee. The infamous $40. Even the $500 she'd requested, but I never gave. Each payment came with no message, no apology. Just silent acknowledgement. It didn't feel victorious. It felt sad. The final attempt came late one Friday night. My phone lit up with her name. I stared at it for a long moment before answering. Her voice was different, slower, unsteady. I have nowhere else to go, she said. There was a faint slur. I just need a little help to get back on my feet. I'll change, I swear. A familiar script. For a brief second, the old instinct surfaced, the urge to smooth things over, to rescue, to prove I wasn't stingy. Then I remembered the dining room, my mother's trembling hands, Claire's steady defense, the word thief echoing off polished wood. No, I said quietly. Silence on the other end. You're really going to abandon family? She asked bitterly. I'm not your solution, I replied. And money won't fix what's actually broken. What's broken? She demanded. Your accountability. The line went dead. That was the last time I spoke to her. She left Charlotte shortly after. Atlanta, we heard. Staying with a cousin. Nathan made it clear to his parents, and to me, that until she sought real help, she wasn't part of our lives. It wasn't dramatic. It was firm. And for the first time since this began, I felt safe. But safety doesn't erase scars. Sometimes, when I closed my eyes, I still heard her voice cutting through that dining room. "You stole my wallet." I'd spent my entire life building a reputation on diligence and ethics, and in under 5 minutes, she'd nearly dismantled it. Reputation is fragile. Trust is earned slowly, and both can be attacked in seconds. One evening, about a month later, Nathan found me staring out the kitchen window, quiet. "Still thinking about it?" he asked gently. I nodded. "Part of me keeps replaying it," I admitted, wondering if anyone still doubts me. He stepped behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Anyone who matters doesn't," he said. And I believed him, because something else had happened that night. Something Olivia hadn't intended. The families had closed ranks, not around blood, around truth. Claire and Mrs. Harper began texting about gardening. My mother and Nathan's father bonded over old jazz records. The divide Olivia had tried to widen had actually sealed. And maybe that was the irony. Her attempt to fracture us forced everyone to declare where they stood, and no one stood with her. But sometimes, late at night, I still remembered the look she gave me at the door. "This isn't over." Not shouted. Not hysterical. Calm. Measured. People like Olivia don't like losing. They regroup. They reposition. And while she was gone, I couldn't help wondering whether distance meant closure or just intermission. 6 months later, I stood in front of a mirror at Founders Hall in Uptown Charlotte, staring at my reflection in a white dress I once thought I might not get to wear. For a moment, I didn't see the lace, or the veil, or the skyline glittering beyond the tall windows. I saw the dining room. The accusation, the word thief hanging in the air like smoke. It's strange how humiliation lingers longer than joy. "Stop spiraling," Claire said gently from behind me, adjusting my veil. "Today is not about her." Her. We didn't say Olivia's name much anymore. She had stayed gone. No dramatic reappearances, no surprise phone calls, no cryptic social media posts, just silence. Nathan had heard through extended family that she'd started therapy in Atlanta. Whether it was true accountability or just another reinvention, we didn't know. But she hadn't reached out again. And I hadn't reached for closure, because sometimes closure is simply absence. The ceremony began at golden hour. Nathan stood at the altar, navy suit perfectly fitted, eyes locked on mine the moment I stepped into the aisle. And something in me settled. Not because everything had been easy, but because everything had been tested. Love that survives public humiliation feels different, stronger, less fragile. When we said our vows, his voice trembled slightly. "I promise to defend you," he said quietly, "even when the room is against you." A subtle reference. A shared memory. Not everyone understood it, but we did. Our families filled the front rows, not divided by bloodlines, but blended. My mother held Nathan's mother's hand during the ceremony. Claire caught the bouquet and laughed too loudly. Nathan's father toasted to integrity. And when the music started and the dance floor filled, I felt something unfamiliar, but welcome. Peace. Olivia's absence wasn't heavy. It was light. Like a window finally opened after months of stale air. But healing isn't forgetting, it's integrating. Weeks after the wedding, while unpacking gifts in our new home in Dilworth, I found myself pausing over a framed photo from that dinner night, taken before everything exploded. We were all smiling, Olivia included. It struck me how convincing performance can be, how easily manipulation hides behind charm. Nathan noticed my silence. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded slowly. "I think I am." Because the truth was, that night had changed me. Before Olivia, I believed that hard work and honesty were enough. After Olivia, I understood something more nuanced. Integrity is powerful, but boundaries protect it. I no longer apologized for tracking expenses. I no longer softened my voice when asking to be repaid. I no longer mistook generosity for self-sacrifice. And maybe that was the unintended gift she gave me, a sharper sense of self. In the spring, as sunlight streamed into the nursery Nathan was assembling, I watched him struggle with the crib instructions and laughed. "Yes," I said, resting a hand over my barely there baby bump. You absolutely need the manual." He looked up, mock offended. "I have engineering-level problem-solving skills." "You also once tried to install a ceiling fan backwards." He grinned. And in that simple, ordinary moment, sawdust on the floor, cardboard boxes half opened, I felt something stronger than triumph. Stability, the kind my mother had fought to give me. The kind I was now building with a man who chose truth over ego. Sometimes I still think about the look Olivia gave me at the door that night. This isn't over. Maybe she meant revenge. Maybe she meant something else. But here's what I've learned. When someone tries to destroy your reputation and fails, the power shifts. Not because you win, but because they expose themselves. Olivia tried to make me small in front of the people who mattered most. Instead, she revealed who truly belonged at the table. And it wasn't about wealth or status or upbringing. It was about character. As I sit here now, watching Nathan tighten the last screw on the crib, I think about that frightened version of me standing in his parents' dining room, frozen, ashamed, doubting whether anyone would believe her. If I could speak to her now, I'd say this: let them doubt. Let them test you. Truth is slower than lies, but it's stronger. The fairy tale didn't end the way I imagined when Nathan proposed under that oak tree. There were no flawless family dinners, no perfect harmony. Instead, there was confrontation, exposure, choice, and commitment. Not just between two people, but between values. And maybe that's a better ending than perfection, because love that survives sabotage isn't naive, it's deliberate. And as Nathan stands up, wipes his hands, and kisses my forehead, I know this much: no one will ever frame me again. Not for theft, not for ambition, not for belonging, because I don't have to prove I belong anymore. I already do.